Hi, sir. How are you? Welcome to Serbia, Sheikh Imran Hosein.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here again.
Good to see you, and it's an honor to meet you, first of all. I've been following your coverage of all kinds of Islamic topics for many years. As I told you briefly, I lived in Kuwait for a very long time, so I have very good, intimate knowledge of both the Shia and the Sunni perspective of things to come, let's say, or their ideas of it. But I wanted to ask you a few questions about yourself first. Can you tell us where you're from and how you got to where you are now? In the sense that, like, when we look you up online, it says you're from Trinidad and your background is Indian. But back in 1940, when your parents emigrated, India was not what India is today. So that's why I just wanted to be like, because I feel like I have a recollection of you saying, or somebody telling me that you're from Bangladesh originally or from Sri Lanka. I can't remember.
No, the information I have is that my forefathers left Afghanistan
Oh, really?
and they moved down to the south in Hyderabad. And from there, my great-grandfather boarded the ship as a young man to work in the sugarcane plantations
Yeah.
of the Caribbean as an indentured Indian laborer. And most of those who went from India chose to remain. Very few decided to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when my great-grandfather went there as a young man, and my grandfather was born, and then my father was born there, and I was born there in Trinidad. And Islam came with them, but I was fortunate to be introduced not to traditional Islamic scholarship. No. I was introduced to a new model of scholarship in Islam, which is pioneered in India by a philosopher who was also a mystic and who did his PhD in Germany and who studied law in Britain and who was an unconventional Islamic scholar. He's not the traditional graduate of a seminary. His name was Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. He is famous as the intellectual father of Pakistan. And my teacher was a student of Iqbal. And from my teacher, I inherited that model of scholarship that was Iqbal. I just learned, to my astonishment and my happiness, that Alia is a
Yes, I saw your video that you uploaded. I was going to ask you about that.
Alia is also inspired by Iqbal. And Alia's scholarship is in some way influenced by Iqbal.
Unfortunately, I don't know much about his Islamic scholarship. I only know about his political and military
I'm not
adventurism.
I'm not comfortable with his politics.
Yeah.
But I'm
One way to put it.
I'm certainly excited by his unconventional model of Islamic scholarship.
Your few words that you said at his grave in the video speak volumes. Let's just leave it at that. Let's discuss why you're here now and why you're not in Albania.
I was finished with my visit to Belgrade. I was planning to come for only 2 days, but Professor Branko insisted I stay for 4 days. So I delivered a lecture at the University of Belgrade on Wednesday night on the Quran and Russia's destiny. And the next day, Thursday, I flew to Albania. This was probably my fourth visit. But this time, they did not allow me in, and I'm now learning that they did not allow me in because of the Americans, that the Americans have put my name on some red list. People who they don't like. because they have their plans in Gaza and I'm standing in the way.
Yeah.
So it is a recognition that my scholarship has now become a hindrance to them. That's a feather in my cap.
Yeah.
So they did not allow me, and the next morning they sent me back to Belgrade, but they haven't sent my baggage as yet.
I want to like float, let's say, 3 different topics and get your response on how these 3 topics converge in the times that we're living in. One is the Pax Judaica that you mentioned and that you discussed recently just now. The second is the potential or proficiency of Serbs who are Muslim to lean towards Salafi understandings, just like the Bosnians or Bosniaks, I should say, of the 90s did, and the resolution, let's say, of the things that were happening in Syria. Meaning, like you said earlier, it was good that the Russians stepped in to protect the Christians and so on, and now the Russians are doing the diplomatically correct thing, but at the end of the day we have a head-chopping Salafi who is in charge in Syria. How do you reconcile
when
these
you
3
ask
things?
3 or 4 questions at the same time, you put me at a dilemma. Because I can't remember the first one.
The first one is Pax Judaica, how it's emerging and how Syria's Jolani is a part of this emergence, and tying that, because we all know that what happened in Syria is basically the same thing that happened in Bosnia, is it not? In the 90s.
I have already answered about the evidence that I perceive of a Pax Judaica emerging. But a Pax Judaica cannot be established while the United States is still so powerful, while Europe and the European Union is still so powerful, and while Russia and China is still so powerful. So they need the Great War. The Zionists need the Great War. And they are calculating that there will be mutual destruction, and a post-nuclear war world will be one in which Israel can now make a credible claim to be the new Pax Judaica ruling the world. And so I anticipate that the Great War is not going to be long from now. 10, 11 years ago, I was seeing the evidence the Great War is around the corner. 11 years have passed.
And when you say the Great War, you mean like the, how should I say, Ayam Kiyama, as they call it, Armageddon, apocalypse, fight against Satan, or do you see it in more incremental steps?
The Great War is prophesied in Christian eschatology, in Jewish eschatology, in Islamic eschatology. So when I speak about the Great War, I'm talking about Armageddon. I'm talking about the Malhama. I didn't use these terms because you may not be familiar with them. That Great War appears to me to be around the corner now. I hope I'm wrong. I will be very happy if I'm wrong. But as an analyst, I have to tell you what I see. And that is that it appears to me now that when the war in Ukraine is winding down, and it becomes clear that Ukraine is facing collapse, and the Ukraine's backers do not want to face defeat, because it'll be too embarrassing for them, that someone will trigger off the Great War. I don't think Ukraine can continue for more than a year or more. That's it. So we don't have much time left before the Great War takes place. When the Great War does take place, the nuclear war takes place, then I am anticipating that in a post-nuclear war world, Israel will now make a claim to a Pax Judaica. That's my first question. What's the next one?
The next one that kind of ties in, because Pax Judaica is happening in Syria. Like the removal of Assad helps Greater Israel more than anything, right or wrong? Like, are we on the same page about that?
There is a big difference between Syria and Libya. Libya continues to be in chaos up to now. Fighting and bloodshed in Libya up to now. But as I said, there was a transfer of power in Syria that was peaceful. Peaceful transfer of power because the Syrian army gave up their weapons, stopped fighting. When they knew the government, the president has left. The president has left. So they gave up fighting. So the ISIS, the Dajjal's warriors, they didn't have to slaughter hundreds and thousands of people.
Only tens.
In order to take control of Syria and establish a new government. So it was, largely speaking, a peaceful transfer of power. Different from Libya. Number two, that the Russians were able to manage the transfer of power with such maturity and such wisdom that the Western world, which was backing these warriors, are now biting their fingers in frustration. Because the Johani of 2 years ago is not the Johani today. The Johani today is recognizing that what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in Israel, is something that is dangerous for them. Okay? So while they were Israel's puppy dogs 2 years ago, they're no longer Israel's puppy dogs.
So you think there's a chance of redemption, let's say, for some of these factions?
I am not in a position to determine whether there's any...
I'm saying political, not spiritual redemption.
I am not in a position to determine whether there's any sincere change in heart. I can't say. But they are clearly changing their position, where formerly they were fighting Russia for 10 years. They are no longer doing that. They're now talking to Russia. And they're looking to Russia for a window of which to get out of the embrace of NATO. So this is to Russia's credit that they have conducted diplomacy there with great maturity and wisdom. So I cannot connect a changing government in Syria with Pax Judaica.
No, you don't think that there's that much of a connection, no?
I cannot connect it, no. The government in Syria today is not the same one 2 years ago. They're changing.
To change gear a little bit and to come more local to the Balkans, during the 90s, in Bosnia, the Bosnians were supported by the Iranians and the Saudis. They were supported by both the Shia and the Sunni in their military adventures. Nowadays in Serbia, the local Muslims here, most of them are of the Sunni, let's say Salafi persuasion, and are leaning towards, how can I say, Jolani-like ideologies. How do you think it's possible for Serbia or Serbian Muslims who are aware of what's going on in the world on a global scale and the use of Muslims and Islam for mal and subversion of geopolitics? How do you think the Serbian Muslims can reorient themselves to a more, how can I say, secular or apolitical, or let's say something in line with the Shia understandings of Ayam Qiyamah and what's coming in? Because one of the reasons that I respect you most, sir, is that you're one of the few Muslim scholars who, let's say, outlines that in the end, the true believers, the Muslims, will work with the Orthodox Christians to get rid of the followers of Satan. How would you help speed up this realization amongst Serbian Muslims?
I have not devoted any effort to study the Balkans to such an extent that I would have an intimate knowledge of the things that you're talking about. But you need a scholar based here, like the Mufti, for example, who would be much better placed to speak about how events are unfolding amongst Muslims in the Balkans. But I can give only a general view of a macro perspective, most certainly not micro. And that is that there is a rivalry between two major movements in Islam in the Balkans, and not here only here, but elsewhere as well. And one is the traditional Sufi movement, which has shown its capacity, its resilience, and its capacity to survive. And the other is, I call them the Antichrist warriors, Dajjal's warriors.
Dajjal.
Yeah.
And in that contest...
Which ones are those, the Salafis or the Wahhabis? Or
I don't distinguish between Salafis and Wahhabis. They're both in the same camp.
in that camp, the Antichrist soldiers.
The Salafi and the Wahhabi are both in the same camp.
Yeah.
The contest between Dajjal's warriors and the traditional Sufi world erupted dramatically so in Chechnya. And the Sufis handed the Salafis a beating of their lives. Beat them to such an extent that they're no longer a credible force in Chechnya.
Yeah.
And the triumph of the Sufis in Chechnya has not been without an intellectual component. That they changed from being hostile to Russia to now fighting for Russia.
Yeah.
Fighting with great courage in Ukraine.
And they're fighting alongside the Orthodox against the devil, basically, as is outlined even by Kadyrov himself.
This is a change in the Sufi movement in Chechnya. The Muslims in this part of the world have a long history of warfare against Russia. And they have history written in blood that they treasure. Yes, Imam Shamil of Dagestan is a hero. He's a hero. And when the Russians captured him and they brought him to Moscow, and he lived the rest of his life in Russia, and then this Sufi religious leader and military leader got to look at the Russian way of life intimately, he changed. He changed. Oh, time up. Okay.
Šta, treba vam...
Treba napred da se traži dozvola.
Šta, snimanje? Okay. That's hilarious.
Oh, he doesn't want that.
He doesn't want video.
It's
That's
fine.
hilarious.
Okay. Imam Shamil
okay.
changed. And he began to admire the Russian way of life before he died.
I'll be back in a second.
So the same thing happened with the Chechenian leadership. All right? So in the Balkans, don't consider this to be a hopeless situation. Yes, the Sufis are in, they call it Bateshki.
Yes,
Bakashi,
yeah,
is it?
but
I can't remember the name.
Yes.
The Sufi movement.
yes.
In other parts of the world,
Naqshbandi?
the Naqshbandi, the Hanafi,
Yeah.
sorry, the Naqshbandi, the Qadri, the Shazali, the Sohrawardi, and so on in other
Yes,
parts
yes.
of the world. But in the Balkan, I think they call them Bateshki. So the Sufi movements in the Balkans have the capacity to outmaneuver the Salafi warriors. Yes.
Unfortunately, we were disrupted by the hotel staff, but I'm going to continue now with audio only. The point is, it's interesting that you mentioned the Chechen solution, because it was one of the questions that I had coming up in my line of questions as a potential solution for the Balkans. So you think that applying some of the, let's say, intellectual and so on stories that are, what's it called, that were used for solutions in raising the awareness within the Muslim population of Chechnya can be also applied basically to the Balkans to raise them to the same spiritual, let's say, level.
The Sufi is closer to the heart of Islam than the Salafi. The Sufi is closer to the heart of Islam. So there's a hope
There is potential, yeah.
that the Sufis in this region would outmaneuver the Salafis.
Speaking of the Sufis, the Albanians recently want to make a Vatican of Islam in Albania or something like that, from what I understood. I don't know any details. Are these the Sufis?
There is an attempt now being made to hijack the Sufis and get the Sufis to become Uncle Sam's shoeshine boys. But because the Sufi movement is closer to the heart of Islam, we always have the possibility that we can produce Sufi leaders who will have the capacity to resist that corruption. Yeah. Don't give up on the Sufis.
A few quick questions. What do you make of your visit to Srebrenica? And I have to commend the fact that you were saying that it was a massacre in your video and not a genocide, so as not to whitewash the actual genocide that is happening.
That's old news. I've been saying this for...
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying, like in the video that I watched today, like you also said it again.
That's old news. I've been saying it for more than 10, 15 years now. Srebrenica was a massacre. But if you use the word genocide, then you're setting the stage for eternal hatred between the two people, because you're blaming an entire nation. You're blaming an entire nation. But if you refrain from saying genocide, then you still keep the door open for reconciliation. And every Christian I have met in Belgrade has condemned Srebrenica.
And for a final question, you met Lavrov recently, if I'm not mistaken.
I was in Moscow last year, attending the Multipolarity Conference, and after the conference, I was invited to join a small group for dinner with him. He spent 2 hours with us.
Yes.
And all the talk was on politics and economics. And when I got a chance to talk, I asked whether I could speak on the Quran in Russia. And when I was finished, he said, "Can you write on the subject?" And I spent 5 months to write the Quran and Russia's destiny. So we sent the book to him, and Professor Alexander Dugin, he wrote the foreword to the book.
Yes, yes.
And we have broken new ground in explaining the Quran in that book. New ground, yeah.
Yes.
Never before has the Quran been explained this way.
And did you mention the Mahdi when you were with Lavrov? Was this at all kind of the topic that you were like, and the times we were living in and the signs and so on? Was that at all discussed, or was it more, how should I say, topical?
I only focused on the mountaintops. And the Mahdi is not on the mountaintop.
Yes. Understood. All right. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Excellent.